Business needs a stronger foundation.
Cut the phone, all right? Just one sec. Bow's Builders, this is Bow. This weekend? Yeah, we can do it.
Indeed can help him hire the people he needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Peace, Limit 12.
Spilled your drink? Quick! The Quicker Picker-Upper. Bounty picks up spills and messes quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading value brand. So you can get back to the party. Bounty, the Quicker Picker-Upper.
Pails on select interior and exterior paints, stains, and coatings via Lowe's gift card rebate. And with everyday appliance savings, save up to $750 now on select major appliances. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. Actual size 110 to 640 fluid ounces. Rebate not valid with other discounts. See Lowe's.com/rebates for more details. Savings instant in select stores. Exclusions apply. U.S. only. Paint pricing valid through 6/30. In-store must ask cashier to apply coupon. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Can't be combined with additional discounts. Valid through 7/14.
The true original Bourbon Black Pepper Smokehouse Chicken is back. Peppered and kissed with our bourbon glaze. Only at Church's, only $5. Church's, bringing that down home flavor. Offer valid at participating locations.
Heroes and villains collide in Loki, where revolution takes hold. In The Handmaid's Tale, ESPN Plus, where MLS legends are made. This is what brings us all together.
We're the ones we've been waiting for.
The Disney Bundle, all of these and more now streaming. Includes Hulu ad-supported or Hulu no ads. Access content from each service separately and select ESPN Plus content via Hulu. Terms apply. Copyright 2021 Disney and its related entities.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. You know we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. You're the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 24th, 2021. Ground of the Portes, Bonjour, Big C. The Vini Vini Vici. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Oh, Charlton, we're doing great here in the South, Charlton. We're just worried about the people up there in the Northeast. You know, Ben Simmons has been putting out inquiries in the Southern California area if any of the Kardashians had a room to rent because he was thinking about going out there and swimming in the lake.
Yeah.
Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. If he needs mouth-to-mouth other than a Kardashian, they'll be able to help him out.
The Kardashian said, we'll leave the light on for you. It's all fair and level. Where I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, Big C, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help, Big C. More people are doing it from sea to shining sea, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, America's always filled with crisis as we look around every day with the turmoil and upheaval that's going on in this country that keeps people distracted, Charlton.
Yeah.
But the reason they have the ability to think freely is because of our veterans who have served so admirably in the armed forces throughout the decades, Charlton. Yep. But unfortunately, those veterans face problems also, Charlton, when they come back into American society.
Yep.
And it has led to over 2 dozen suicides a day amongst our veterans, Charlton, a very horrific disease. Mental health is the #1 awareness that we all have to have in America.
Yeah.
And that has led to so many suicides in America, Charlton, because everybody is not always kind to everybody. We need to pay attention to other people and make them feel that we would think about them the way we think about ourselves.
Yep.
Ask the questions, Charlton. That's all it takes. But our veterans deserve more than what they've been getting from our government and our society. And it has led to too many suicides. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton.
Yep.
But this needs to be more of an American alert issue. Pay attention to the plight of everyone next to you, Charlton.
Very well said. We love doing our part, Big C. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And you can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, depending on what time of day it is, and the home run king, as well as the great Say Hey Kid. It's all fair, 11 word. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is to recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to help put people back to work. Just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, sports teams are doing it, watch TV, and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Our loans are produced by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe, just like Genesis 1 and 3. God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. My goodness, Big C, sometimes you just can't leave well enough alone. Did you say that Big C will be featured on the next episode of The Kardashians? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Ben Simmons is out there looking for an Airbnb in Southern California, Charlton. We know the Kardashians always have extra room.
Yeah.
And he's been involved with that family before, so maybe they'll bring him back into the fold.
Yeah, they say we'll leave the light on for you, and you can come, but you can't leave. It's all fair and love. Well, you ever go to a place that say you're welcome, but you can't leave? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's called the Hotel California.
It was a song back in the day. Welcome to the Hotel California. It's all fair and level word. Big C, speaking of coming and not leaving, sometimes whenever you look up, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, I'm the Atlanta Hawks, Big C, NBA playoff basketball universe. The Atlanta Hawks fly that Southern hospitality, or as they found out in Milwaukee, Big C, that Southern hostility into Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Big C, and they dropped 48 points on ice trays in a 116-113 Game 1 victory. And the great Trae Young said, I'll be back. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I look at the Milwaukee Bucks and Coach Budenholzer. They got to be most disappointing teams throughout the playoffs, even though they've made it to the Eastern Conference Final. When you got two 7-footers, the coach and those two guys, Charlton, remind me of two 12-year-old boys going into the bathroom and forgetting to lift up the toilet seat, not knowing what to do. Go down on the blocks. Play in the paint where you can dominate, Charlton. They don't have the physicality in Atlanta if these two big guys are down on the paint. And if you look at the fourth quarter from that last game, Charlton, when you see Atlanta out-rebounding Milwaukee in the fourth quarter because your two 7-footers are out there playing around the arc.
Yeah, out there playing around the arc. And they tried, Big C, but Ice Trae said, not so fast, my friend. It's all fair and level. Where I think we saw the making of a new superstar in the NBA last night, Big C. A lot of people don't watch Atlanta basketball outside of the South, and now they're seeing it in the playoffs, so they get a chance to see a lot, Big C. The great Trae Young, Ice Trae, absolutely blistered the Bucks, Big C, in Game 1 on Wednesday, really showing his talent. He's a very talented player, Big C, to the tune of a career high, dropping 48 points. You know how rude that is to go into someone's house and your birds drop 48 points on the floor, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it's like I said to you a week or so ago. Is anybody missing LeBron James or Steph Curry in the playoffs when you got the excitement of these young players that are out there dominating the hardwood and the biggest showcase of the NBA, Charlton, in the playoffs? We've seen nothing but exciting basketball from the young guns in the NBA. and they've lifted the game back up to the heights that everybody expected to be at.
Yeah, we do miss the Steph Curry and LeBron James in the playoffs, Big C, the West Coast. It's all fair and level war, but the good old boys that are playing, they're playing to win the game, Big C. The Hawks also scored 24 points off of his 11 assists. This is a good old boy that was having a hard time playing against this Milwaukee Bucks team, Big C. But when you do the math, and Young did just something that no player in NBA history has ever done in a conference final game. He also joined some GOAT-like under 23 scoring company, Big C. The great Trae Young's 48 points. It ties, when you think about it, LeBron James and the late, great Kobe Bryant for the most points scored in a postseason game in NBA history before 23 years old, Big C, you thought?
Well, Charleston, I mean, Trae shoots often from the three-point arc, which sometimes is ill-advised. I mean, taking those 35-foot jumpers.
Yep.
I'd like to see him penetrate more because he has a clear path to the rim against the Milwaukee Bucks because Lopez and Antetokounmpo are not in the paint, Charleston, to deter him.
Yeah, to deter him. If you saw a big 6-foot bird coming in the paint, you'd probably run out of the way too, Big C. It's all fair level war. But when you think about the Mount Rushmore that he's climbed, the great LeBron James, 48 points, and that was on May 31st, 2007. The late, great Kobe Bryant, Big C, dropping 48 points. It was May 13th, 2001, and he's joined that company with 48. The only difference, he does not have the physical size that Kobe and LeBron had, Big C, but when he hits that weight room, like a lot of good old boys start doing once they get some weight room material under him, Big C, he's going to be even more difficult, even if you scratch the age qualification. Some people say age ain't up but another, Big C. But the performance stacks up with some of the greatest showings we've ever seen in a conference finals game. Just my opinion, most points in a conference finals. For all the good old boys, those old timers that like to look up the stats and they actually use typewriters instead of Googling things or using voice text, Big C, Michael Jordan, 54 points. The great Dirk Nowitzki, 50 points. The great LeBron King James, 49 points. LeBron said it so nice, he said, I'll be back, and dropped 48 points. And then Dirk Nowitzki also had 48 points. And last night, Ice Trae had 38 points. And I guess he told those Bucks, no matter how much you can kick, we can still fly higher than you can kick, Big C, you're done.
Well, Charleston, stature physically wise doesn't always work in the NBA. I mean, you look at Giannis, got one of the most chiseled bodies in the league, and he refuses to play in the paint. So Trae Young is built for what Trae Young does, being a slashing type basketball player, getting his other teammates involved in the flow of the offense. He's not trying to post anybody up down in the paint, but he keeps everybody alert on the floor.
Yeah, he keeps everybody alert on the floor, and I just love the fact that he's able to get his small frame down among those big giants. And Ice Trae joins LeBron James as only 22-year-old on that list that we named off with LeBron James and Nowitzki, and now Trae Young. Of course, Michael Jordan did his thing at 54 points. I really do feel that he could be like any other great point guard out there. And the new trend, and he's part of that trend too, is everybody wants to be the three-point shooting king. Oftentimes when he shoots threes, nothing wrong with it. But instead of trying to shoot it from 30 feet away, maybe come down to about 24 feet away, just a little bit closer to the rim. But he also has that, like a hawk, Big C. When they're hungry, you know, they'll dive into the water to get a fish out of the water, Big C.
Well, Charleston, I think him launching those long three-point shots is a lack of maturity, not understanding how he can control the game even more.
Yeah.
And that's why I indicated that he needs to get down into the paint more.
Yeah.
Go to the rim. Draw the foul from the opposing defense.
Yep.
Go to the free throw line. Keep their defense at bay. But when you're sitting there launching those ill-advised three-point shots, and when you look at him here in the playoffs, Charleston, he's not shooting that great from beyond the arc. He's shooting less than 37% in the three-point range. So, I mean, at times, when he makes it, it looks good, looks spectacular. But he's hurt his team more often than not. Even though they're in the finals, he's hurt his team more often than not. And he should not let that be the Achilles heels of the Hawks throughout the rest of the playoffs. Yeah, the great MC Hammer. Please, Hammer, don't hurt him. He's not listening, Big C. He's going to keep firing threes, but he also takes that small frame like James Brown, the hardest working man in the NBA right now. It's all fair and level war. But I do want to tell you also, you know, they've stolen game one again, Big C. This 3 times in a row, Big C, you thought. Well, you're not stealing the game, Charleston, when your other team just say, hey, take this, we really don't want it. Yeah. I mean, the Bucks took themselves out of the game, Charleston. They had a 7-point lead late in the game. And all of a sudden, they just said, okay, we're going to start jacking up three-point shots ourselves. Yeah. Instead of, like I said, you got 2 7-footers, and you keep refusing to go down in the paint. And one of these guys is a two-time MVP and two-time Defensive Player of the Year in the league. And yet Giannis, with all his physical attributes, I know you talk about the diminutive Trae Young stature, Charlton.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Giannis going down in the paint?
Yeah, I agree. He has to get down in the paint. And his physical physique is amazing. That made me start doing push-ups every time I watch Giannis go to the free throw line. Whenever they're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm trying to do push-ups to keep up with the big figure.
Well, I mean, Giannis is, an outstanding athlete. You know, and I question Budenholzer.
Yeah.
Budenholzer was in this position several years ago when he was coaching the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
And he got to the Eastern Finals and was swept in 4.
Yeah.
Because he would not put his big man down inside. He wouldn't keep Al Horford down in the paint. He had him out on the wing.
Yeah.
And yet he was a better player than Tristan Thompson. And here I'm witnessing the same thing again with Lopez and Giannis. I mean, when I look at Clint Capella, he's only 6'9".
Yeah.
But Clint Capella in the fourth quarter was cleaning
balling
up the boards because he didn't have anybody his height going after him.
Yeah, he was doing his thing. But they say Hawks can fly high. And in all fairness to the Bucks, no matter how high they can jump, they cannot fly as high as the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks is all fair in Leavenworth War. They will not be getting into that deep fried skillet down in Atlanta. They're up 1-0. If they go up 2-0 before going back to Atlanta Big C, it's over. But there are a lot of good boys that predicted that they would have 1 win in this series. I disagree. I think they're going to get at least 3 wins, maybe 4, especially as you mentioned, if the big guys forget that they're about 7 feet tall. It's all fair in Leavenworth War. Congratulations to the Atlanta Hawks. It's all fair in Leavenworth War. I want to bring you out to a place called the most beautiful place on the planet Earth. It's called California, or as our friend Arnold Schwarzenegger says, California. The great California Los Angeles Clippers, Big C. They found a lot of love with the Pacific Ocean and that breeze that comes off the Pacific Ocean. They're going to need that breeze, Big C. They're thinking that if they could just get that breeze to cool down the Phoenix Suns, then they'll go up. They'll be down 2-1 in this series tonight coming out of Southern California. It's all fair in Leavenworth War. So Game 3 is when the Clippers start playing. Perhaps the wildest finish in a playoff game in recent memory. The Phoenix Suns climbed out of a commanding 2-0 series lead. The Suns, after an exciting win in Game 2. Phoenix gets even better news. Maybe Big C, just maybe heading into Game 3 with the likely return of guard Chris Paul, future Hall of Famer in my opinion, Big C, the great Chris Paul, who is on track to get back to the floor again after being sidelined due to some health and safety protocols. While the Suns managed to win the first 2 games in this series without Chris Paul, I'm going to call him Great King Chris Paul without King Chris Paul, having him back gives him a bit more insurance. State Farm plug, Big C, heading into Los Angeles. Phoenix only managed to scrape by with wins in his first 2 games, and Paul returning, it might just take a lot of pressure off of the great Devin Booker. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Devin Booker didn't have any pressure on him, Charlton, in the last game. He wasn't the leading guard scoring in the game.
Yeah.
Now it gets a chance for him not to have to bring up the ball. He can go out and play on the wing like he normally does with Chris Paul coming back into the lineup. But now they have a 4-guard rotation. That's something that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Clippers. And when you think about the Clippers going back to the Pacific Ocean in California, California is dry right now. That's what the Clippers shot is very dry. When you look at the fatigue that they were operating with late in the game, I mean, they had no lift. This is a team that has had to fight real hard to get to this point in the playoffs. And you look at the rest that the Phoenix Suns had. They had an entire week to rest up for the Clippers.
Yeah.
And they've been running up and down the floor. And the biggest problem for the Clippers right now is that they have nobody to play against the DA.
Yeah.
The DA has been controlling the paint for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton has been dominant. Offensively, he's getting the ball to his cutting players, Charlton.
Yep.
He's protecting the rim, and he's snatching critical rebounds.
He's snatching critical rebounds, and it took King Paul George to miss 2 free throws. It's all fair and level work. But tonight, they're playing the great Rod Stewart at the Staples Center in Southern California. And rumor has it, Big C, I know you're going to be on that next episode of The Kardashians. I don't know when they're going to release it, but I know they're going to film it if that makes sense to you, Big C. There's an episode called Get Out, Big C, Get Out. That makes sense to you, Big C.
Well, you know, that's what the rim was telling Paul George when he was shooting.
Get out.
At the free throw line, Charlton. Yeah. I mean, you know, he sit there. I mean, it was big as the ocean. That real one. He's the guy that shoots 90% on the season.
Yeah.
And he got there, and it looked like he was shooting through a Cheerio
Yeah.
and he couldn't get the ball in.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the pressure of the game. You know, your sphinx gets a little tight late in the game when, you know, it's all critical on the line, and
Yeah.
Paul George just knotted up.
Well,
I mean, the Phoenix Suns are playing with house money right now.
Yeah.
They're at ease, so they can go into L.A. Charleston. All they got to do is get a split.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to get a sweep in Los Angeles.
Well, it might not be as easy as it was against the Lakers when they came back and won and swept the Lakers when they started winning again after being down 2-1. It's all fair and level war, the great King Paul George says. Tonight, the great Rod Stewart. The Clippers might still be in shock, some people think, after losing Game 2. And in my opinion, that ball was out on Ayton, but the NBA chose not to show it 5 times like they did other things, Big C. In the most improbable ways, when you think about it, there's no time to think about that tough loss, says the great King Paul George, as they now find their backs against the wall, which is where they've been the last 2 series, and 3rd straight series, Big C. Unlike the Suns, the Clippers still don't know when the great Kawhi Leonard's going to return, so they'll once again have to rely upon role players like the great Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, who did his thing last time they were down there at the Staples Center, and it was against Utah, Big C. The great Luke Kennard should have a good game tonight, has to step up. However, the first 2 games of this series, the Clippers have only managed to get consistent performances out of George and Jackson, so they'll need to hope for more production out of the other role players. But I still say, Palmdale, California's finest, King Paul George, is going to drop 30 tonight, and they'll find a way this time to make their free throws if they get the benefit of the doubt, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you realize this current NBA season, Charlton, that the Phoenix Suns have a better winning record in the Staples Center in Los Angeles than either the Lakers or the Clippers?
No, I don't know if that makes sense, but, you know, when one guy has a pulled groin.
Home court advantage for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah. Well, when you got guys with pulled groins and bad ankles, you can go there and maybe get a game or 2. It's all fair and level war.
I'm gonna get you some pixie dust and a violin. You got more excuses than a novelty shop.
You can get pixie dust at Los Angeles Disneyland. It's all fair and level war, the home of the pixie dust. I really look forward to the game tonight where the Clippers will claw their way out of the abyss with the help of the wind coming off the Pacific Ocean. It's all fair and level war. Big C, more news. There's just a little bit of news about Jason Kidd, one of California's finest point guards out of St. Joseph, Notre Dame, Alameda, California, high school basketball, and then went on to Cal Berkeley. Of course, he's been in the NBA and won a championship with the Dallas Mavericks. He coached the New Jersey Nets at the time to the NBA Finals, and they lost to California's finest team, the Los Angeles Lakers. There's room that he's been invited down to J.R. Ewing's ranch in Texas, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, the coaching carousel searches are still going on in the NBA. And, you know, wherever Jason Kidd lands, I think he'll do an outstanding job. He's already been the coach of 2 different NBA teams, Charlton. If he gets one this year, it'll be his 3rd. Yeah, it'll be his 3rd. It's all fair and level war, Big C. You know, it's an amazing. He's doing this thing in Milwaukee, also New Jersey, and maybe he just gets the chance to sleep at J.R. Ewing's ranch. Will Cuban invite Jason Kidd to stay at his house? Or will they make him get what they call the red roof in, the way Jerry Jones did black coaches, Big C? Well, Charlton, they have a relationship. I mean, Jason Kidd helped Mark Cuban win his only NBA title down there with the Dallas Mavericks several years ago. So they have a great relationship with each other. Yeah, Jerry Jones made Marvin Lewis stay at the red roof in. It's all fair. They don't even leave the lineup for you. It's all fair level war. More NBA basketball news, Big C. The Indiana Pacers will hire the great Rick Carlisle as their next coach, speaking of Texas, Big C. According to some news reports that came out today, Carlisle recently stepped down as the coach of the Dallas Mavericks, if you call being let go stepping down, Big C. Being in charge for 13 seasons with the franchise and helping lead the team to this only championship, Big C, the Pacers have found the veteran coach they were looking for after firing Nick Burton, Big C. After just 1 season, just 1, into his contract, Indiana's already built to make the playoffs for next season. Big C, they have a good crew of returning players. With Carlisle at the helm, it'll give them a chance to make a deeper run, allegedly, into the postseason more than they've done recently, Big C. Your thoughts? Well, he actually did step down from the Dallas Mavericks, Charlton, after 13 years with the organization. This is his 2nd tenure with the Indianapolis Pacers, Charlton. He was a head coach there for 2 years when Larry Bird was the general manager of that team, and he left there to go to Dallas, and he won an NBA title in Dallas, and now he's hoping to go back to where he originally started as a head coach and repeat that feat in Indianapolis.
Yeah, who steps down from coaching Luka Doncic doesn't make sense, but it's all fair in Leavenworth. Sometimes you're tired of riding those horses out there at J.R. Ewing's ranch called Southport Big C. It's all fair in Leavenworth. So when you think about who's next, like who's next in the NBA Big C, like you're going to be on the Kardashian episode, okay, filming with the Kardashians and being able to make the cut, Big C, might not be mutually exclusive, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, dealing with the Kardashians, you got to get cut. Keep your face in place.
Yeah, sometimes you can get in, but you can't get out. You can't get out, Big C. It's all fair in Leavenworth. But when you think of the NBA, and a lot of these good old boys, they think about who's the face of the NBA. We say it's King James right now, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, obviously. Good old boys have their own thing. Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, it's all fair in Leavenworth. But who's the next face of the NBA Big C? Everybody has their own opinion. No professional sports league relies as heavily on face recognition of the league as much as the NBA and the California new driver's license. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the NBA has always been a star-driven league, Charlton. There's always been a player that they put on the mantle as a marquee individual to represent the league as far as promoting the league.
Yeah.
I mean, it's coming time where that banner is going to change, Charlton, and we're looking forward. We see all the new faces in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
Those old guns, Charlton, are sliding by the side. Even iron wears thin and gets old. So the NBA is looking to move forward over the next couple of years with his new marquee players.
Yeah, with his marquee players. California driver's license, they have a facial recognition. It's amazing how they're branding everybody like a fraternity. Next, they're going to put a brand of iron on your arm, if that makes sense to you. A driver's license might not be enough to get your ID, if that's all fair, Leavenworth Big C. But when you think about it, as you're mentioning, Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, it's all fair in Leavenworth since the NBA and the ABA merger before the 1976-77 season. The league has had 5 faces of the league. The great Dr. J. Julius Erving. The great, did you think they came to watch you call fouls or watch me drop 30, Larry Bird? Irvin Magic Showtime Johnson, Big C, the great King Michael Jordan, and King LeBron James have all fulfilled that key role admirably. And the best of them all, my opinion, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is maybe the best, the iconic skyhook, Big C, just my opinion, 6 championships. The late Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal were great enough to fill that role, but they fell short having the impenetrable brand of the aforementioned quintet. But I think if the NBA has made a mistake, only one player in the history of the NBA universe has 6 championships and an at-the skyhook, and they failed to find a way to brand them, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, to brand a player, Charlton, is that you have to be out there and willing to take the banner.
Yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was not that. He was more of a social activist trying to understand what's going on in America. Basketball was not his life.
Yeah.
It was just his job.
Yeah, it was just his job. The great Marvin Gaye, what's going on? He was always trying to find what's going on. It's all fair in Leavenworth. The current face of the NBA is his best player. His name is King LeBron James, Big C, out of St. Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's over in Ohio, Big C. He's now 36 years old. Half his lifetime ago, he was in high school playing high school basketball, and they were touring around the country the way Michael Jackson did his tours around the country, Big C. So now 36 years old and still in phenomenal shape. He should continue to be in that role for at least 3 to 4 more years. At that point, who do you think, and everybody has an opinion, will take over from the King, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, I mean, it's about being hot in basketball. It's about being in a market that you can push as far as the NBA goes. I mean, when we look at the middle of the country, Charlton, there's really only been 2 players in the middle of the country that's really been pushed, and that's Michael Jordan and LeBron James.
Yeah.
Other than that, everybody has been coastal as far as being the face of the NBA.
Yeah, they really have, even though, you know, we have another player that was great back in the day, the great Rick Barry, of course, Jerry West on the logo of the NBA paraphernalia. It's all fair and level work. But remember, King James will continue to be that guy in the next several years. They also have a movie coming out, and this I guess is out right now, Big C. I think it's Space Jam or something of that nature, Big C. Also, the great Kevin Durant, Big C. Steph Curry, I think he's amazing. James Harden, any other player in their early 30s, need not apply. Ironically, when you look at Steph Curry with the Golden State Warriors, part of the Splash Brothers, they came from Philadelphia before they came out to California, and now his brother's in Philly, and he's in San Francisco, so sometimes the future and the past are the same. But when you think about it, in the 3 years, the debate will be for the best player in the league may come down to Luka Doncic. That's why it's bizarre that Carlisle left to go back to Indiana. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the king, Big C. The great Joel Embiid. Not to sound xenophobic, Big C, but it's a highly unlikely that a foreign-born player can be the league's next best face, especially among about 80% African Americans. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you look at those foreign-born players, Charlton, and two of them are black players when you want to look at it from that perspective,
yeah.
I don't think that the league wants to go down that road as of yet, Charlton, taking a foreign-born player and marketing him as America's game representative.
Yeah.
There are so many young guys right now, Charlton, on the ledger that can potentially take that mantle. I mean, we have a couple of them in the playoffs still playing. It's just a matter of how they develop over the next couple of years and how much television exposure they got. I mean, you got Young, you got Zion Williams in New Orleans, which is hard to market him down in New Orleans, Charlton. You got Devin Booker out there in the desert, and Phoenix is about to kick the Clippers' butt tonight again.
And not so fast.
I mean, there's so many young players all around.
Yeah.
It's just whichever one gets hot. I mean, we got Karl Anthony Towns being hit in Minnesota, along with Anthony Edwards. So it's about being on television. Television is what makes the next star of the NBA.
Yeah.
They tried this past season with New Orleans. They had more television games than any team in the NBA. You even got the young ball kid down in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So is it going to come down to the NBA and television who becomes the next moniker player in the NBA?
Yeah, it's all fair and level work. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. And in the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, former California governor, we'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our national sponsors all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You know, Big C, I'm telling you, there's something amazing talking about the next big face of the NBA. Again, look for a Big C appearing with the Kardashians where he can get in, but we don't know if he can get out. It's all fair in 11 World. Hopefully you make the cut, Big C. But when you think about African-American players, or as the great Donald Trump said, African-Americans, okay, Big C, players that fight for a much bigger cause than basketball, in a league that is deeply rooted in African-American culture that helps push forward the black culture in America more than any other league, the faces simply must be African-American, Big C. A lot like golf, they made it a white man's game. Even though the best golfer right now still eligible for the cut is Tiger Woods when he comes off the men, Big C. But dating back to the NBA's modern inception, that titles belong to black players, Big C. Even the great Larry Bird himself known that the NBA was a black man's league, calling basketball a black man's game. For a league that's so integral in the black experience in America, Big C, and to white Americans too, they pack the arenas to watch young black athletes perform, and also the black culture. That title should be served for African Americans, Big C, even though anyone's invited to the party, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, anybody can come in, Charlton, if you pay the door fee.
Yeah.
But it's still run by Negroes in America, Charlton. I mean, the NBA, the Negro Basketball Association, let's be real, that's what it's all about. Who do you turn on the television to watch? If you see a team of all five whites, no one's going to spend much time watching that. And I don't care what your cultural background is, Charlton. You turn on the game for the highlights, real players.
Well, I don't know if you're going to make the Kardashians cut with that take, Big C, but you can own that on your own. It's all fair in love and war, Big C. I want to look at the WNBA basketball schedule for this beautiful day of June 24th, 2021. You can get in, but you might not get out. It's all fair in love and war. Today's game, Dallas at Indiana. You have Chicago at New York, and then Washington is at Los Angeles. There's a lot of good games going on in basketball, NBA basketball, as well as WNBA. Is all fair in love and war. I want to take a little pause from the basketball because watching that ball bounce around the court, up and down, all over the place, makes me a little bit dizzy, Big C. How do they have such eye coordination to always know how to catch that brown ball, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I mean, practice. This is what these guys do as a lifestyle and a living, Charlton.
Yep.
Most of them have a basketball that lays next to them in bed.
Yeah, hey. Be careful talking about somebody. Yeah, I told you, if you want to make the cut with the Kardashians, a lot of basketball players, they got out, but they couldn't get out fast enough. That makes sense here. It's all fair 11 war just being flipped. I want to run the ball to the NFL, the National Football League. If you rank the 6 most overlooked Super Bowl champions, I'm going to go to 6 of them. Everybody has their own opinion, Big C. Going back to number 6, it was in 1969, the Kansas City Chiefs' final record, they were 14-3. The roster included 8 Hall of Fame players, defeated the previous 2 AFL champions and the reigning NFL champion in the postseason against the NFL champion Minnesota Vikings. Kansas City Chiefs forced 5 turnovers while holding Minnesota to just 239 yards. In the 1969 Chiefs, Big C, they boasted 8 Hall of Famers on that team, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, that team was led by Hank Scram, Charlton. It's just a wonderful team of talent. A lot of historical black players, Charlton, were on that roster of the Kansas City Chiefs. And that really awoken America to the talent that were in the black colleges in America, Charlton. And Hank Scram became a legend on the sideline because he was the first NFL coach to ever be Mike.
Isn't that amazing how far we've come when you look at the team and the size of players from the 1969 season to the 2020 season? It's amazing what eating your vegetables can do for you, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, at that time, the Kansas City Chiefs had the largest offensive and defensive line in pro football.
Yeah.
And they were all very talented.
Yeah, all very talented, but probably couldn't even make a roster based on today's way people build their bodies. All fair and level war. Number 5 on that list, and again, it's just an opinion. Don't bring me that southern hostility that you guys call hospitality, Big C. Number 5 on the list, the 1982, the Washington Redskins at the time, now the Washington football team, their final record was 12-1, outscored their 4 playoff opponents, 110-48, featured Hall of Fame running back, the great touchdown John Riggins, Big C. Former, when you think about it, he's also Native American. And league MVP Mark Mosley, when you think about how good that team was after rolling past the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings in the first 2 rounds, Washington defeated the rival Dallas Cowboys, Big C, Tom Landry's team, and the only team that defeated them during the regular season in the NFC Championship game. While they overlooked the abbreviated season, likely looked something like to take the shine off of Washington's first championship, along with the fact that there are just 3 Washington's 22 starters were named to the Pro Bowl, just 3 of them, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, Charlton, they had such a dominant team that year. I mean, when you think about John Wiggins, the way that he dominated the ground game with the Washington Redskins, the Hogs offensive line, Charlton, and they had a tenacious defense. They went up against the Dolphins in the Super Bowl down in Miami, and that's when Riggins set the then rushing record for the Super Bowl and was the MVP.
Yeah, was the MVP, and that's like, I love when they played the games at RFK Stadium, Big C, but the stadium, unlike some of the new stadiums now that are very pleasant, that stadium was actually built with springs, and it would actually bounce up and down as the crowd got louder, and it just added to the atmosphere, because at home you can see the TV monitor shaking as the RFK crowd was really into it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you took the team out of the heart of D.C., Charlton, and put it out in Virginia, everything changed about that organization. They need to think about building a stadium again in the District of Columbia, Charlton, and bring the team back to its rightful home.
Yeah, they took it out right not that far from the White House, Big C. It's all fair and level war. Number 4 on the list, how about them Cowboys? Before they were how about them Cowboys, 1971. The Dallas Cowboys record. Jerry Jones has to wonder what happened to the Cowboys. What happened to the Cowboys, Big C? They were 14-3, featuring 9, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8. They featured 9, Big C. Hall of Famers allowed the Dolphins to score just 3 points in Super Bowl VI, while the 92 Cowboys might have something to say about it. The franchise's first championship team, it still might be its best when you think about it. They went a perfect 10-0 with the Roger the Dodger starback Big C as their starter. And Dallas' 71 roster was loaded with talent. Why are they so overlooked? The 71 Cowboys are somewhat overshadowed by their 1977 championship team that beat up on Denver and featured 3 Hall of Famers, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about those early Cowboys, Charlton, that was pre-television. 24/7 on football. But, you know, when you think about the great players that were on that roster that they had, Dwayne Thomas at running back, Thomas Hollywood, Henderson on linebacker, they had a lot of characters. You had the doomsday defense, Charlton. But this was a team that was full of talent. Lance Russell playing wide receiver. Even Mike Dicker was a tight end on that team, Charlton. So Tom Landry had a house full of talent.
You know what I liked about the great Tom Landry? I know a lot of people said he was kind of to himself, Big C, very quiet man. But he always dressed like a gentleman. And maybe that doesn't matter nowadays. Guys can wear sweatsuits to the game. But it was something about the class of how Tom Landry played. And the Dallas Cowboys, you know, they won a lot of games under the great Tom Landry. And it's amazing now that their coaches wear sweatsuits. Just a thought. They're all wearing sweatsuits now. They don't have that class. And they don't have the same success that Landry had. Just an opinion. It's all fair in love and war outside of Jimmy Johnson, Big C. Number 3 on that list. I know this team, before they even built the new stadium in Denver, the old stadium was a raucous place that was ear-piercing with their sound, Big C. The 1998 Denver Broncos, I covered their Super Bowl down in San Diego when they beat the Green Bay Packers, but Pat Bowlen said, "This one's for John." And Terrell Davis had 200 yards rushing in 3 quarters. It's all fair and love and war. But the second, think about this. Maybe their best team, others say second best team, record aside. The final record, 17-2, Big C, featured league MVP and Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis that played the Super Bowl 33 with a migraine headache, still ran for 200 yards and did not get MVP of that game. It's all fair and love and war. Hall of Fame quarterback John Touchdown Elway out of Stanford, the Pac-10, outscored their 3 playoff opponents. It was 95-32 in their 3 opponents, Big C. Denver won his second consecutive Super Bowl with little resistance after a 13-0 start. And that's when they beat Atlanta down in Florida, Big C. And when you think about it, it was the defensive unit that allowed a mere 2 touchdowns in 3 playoff games. And why are they overlooked? Minnesota, however, did not fulfill this end of the bargain by a 15-1 season. As the great late Dennis Green, the Vikings were upset by the Falcons. The Falcons, because those birds upset a lot of people, Big C. But it was a wide kick, the first miss of the year in the NFC Championship game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Gary Anderson had not missed a field goal all year long. 28 consecutive field goals, Charlton. But when it came to the most critical kick of the year, he choked like Paul George did at the free throw line the other night. And the Vikings were denied an opportunity to go to their 5th Super Bowl, Charlton. And that was their best opportunity in the franchise history to win. So people will always look at the Denver Broncos' 2nd Super Bowl victory and say, you did not play against the best team.
Man, I remember that game was televised by Fox Sports. I was down there in Miami. One of the best times I ever had was in Florida, Big C. It's amazing. I thought I mistakenly walked into some dressing rooms because almost everybody was naked, Big C. And then I realized that's how they dressed down in Miami on the beach. It's all fair in level war. That was a great game. I wish we would have been able to see the Vikings and the Broncos that year. But the NFL had other plans. Number 2 on the list, the 1984 San Francisco 49ers, Big C. Their final record, 18-1. If you think about it, touchdown Joe Montana. They both of the league's top-ranked offense and second-ranked defense. You think about the great Ronnie Lott, Big C. They had so many great players playing offense and defense. Fred Dean on that team, Big C. On the backfield, they also had the guys from Nebraska. They had Rathman in the backfield blocking and Roger Craig. It's all fair in love and war. But when you think about it, they defeated 3 playoff opponents by complying 82-26, Big C. My halftime's changed. A year before the Bears went 18-1, the 49ers became the first team to win 18 games in a season. I remember being in Chicago when the 49ers went back there. It was like 7 degrees, and the 49ers wouldn't won that game, Big C. But when you think about it, why they overlooked the early 80s, the 49ers were similar to the early 2000s Patriots in that they did not have the biggest names and thus failed to generate many national headlines. But no one can argue. Those fists full of gold, Big C, some of the finest football teams the NFL has ever seen, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, but it's like what you said. No one really knows the names on the roster, Charlton. They had 3 or 4 marquee players. Beyond that, Charlton, you didn't have household names that you could market, and people pay attention, whereas the media has expanded to names that they can recognize on teams that they can live with for infamy, Charlton, and the 49ers didn't possess that. And when you look at that roster, Charlton, yes, it was full of great players, but how many of them could play today?
Yeah, that's a very good. None of them can play today because they're too old. They probably have a hard time getting out of bed today, Big C, even if they were in their prime. things have changed. It's all fair and level war. But I want to take you to a year. Also, they kind of get booed now. They left California. What the great Paul Leno says, they're gone. Oh, it's all fair and level war when he says they saying she's gone. The Raiders are gone. But in 1976, they were here, Big C, in California, the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Raiders, final record 16-1. The great Al Davis defeated, think about this, the defending two-time champion Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC title game. Those games were always must-see TV. Rushed for the then record 266 yards in Super Bowl 11. After years of heartbreak, the great Hall of Fame coach John Madden, Big C, the Raiders would not be denied in 1976 after stubbing their toe against the Patriots in Week 4. The Raiders would win their final 13 games, Big C. That team was amazing at the Coliseum. It was always rocking. The Raiders' powerful offensive line overwhelmed the Minnesota's famed Purple People Eater defense down at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. The Raiders intimidated any defense and nasty secondary, Big C. Why are they overlooked, though? The 70s Raiders were loved by their fans, but they were loathed by the NFL. And the 76 team that led the league in penalties, Big C, it wasn't always their fault, though, if you leave it up to them. The controversial playoff wins over New England, aided by Sugar Bear Hamilton's shaky roughing the pass and penalty. We've seen that before against New England. The Pittsburgh Steelers that played 1,000-yard rushing Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier. Also the immaculate reception that a lot of Raiders swore hit the ground, Big C. They didn't get that on TV either. Maybe why the 76 Raiders don't get more love, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, as you said, they led the league in penalties, Charlton. You talked about a dirty organization and team. That's what the Raiders were vaunted as, Charlton, is that, people talked about them as intimidators, but they were also as dirty with some of the shots that they would take on opposing players.
Yeah.
I mean, we even saw some of the vicious hits. In that era of the NFL, Charlton, when they showed highlights of an NFL game, it was about the vicious hits that were laid by defenders and players.
Yeah.
The Raiders made a lot of those. Today's era, Charlton, you get kicked out of the league, but the Raiders, I mean, they were one of the dominant teams of the 70s.
Yeah, one of the dominant teams. My first commercial when I was selling television commercials in the Bay Area was the great John Vella at Raider Locker Room. I still want to thank the great John Vella for allowing me to do a commercial with the Raider Locker Room when they came back to Northern California from Los Angeles. And my first foray into television was with John Madden's crew, the John Madden and the late Pat Summerall. It was the San Diego Chargers at the time, at the San Francisco 49ers at Candlestick Park back in 1996. I really appreciated getting my start in the door with those fine teams and those fine men. It's all fair and level war. But I want to ask you one more thing about the Raiders, Big C. That's a team that was so beloved by the Bay Area fans, and then all the turmoil with the Alameda County and Al Davis, they wouldn't build up a team or the stadium the way he wanted, and he decided to take the team down to Southern California anyway. He was always in a lawsuit with the NFL, and isn't it amazing that he did so much to fight to keep that team in California? And the last coach that he fired is, I think, one of the first that his sons hired as he moved the team out of California. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, that's a bygone era. When you look at Al Davis and what he did as far as the structure of the Raiders and the NFL, Charlton, he was the league's first commissioner in the AFL. He and Pete Rozelle spent their careers battling each other. They're the ones who integrated the merger of the two leagues, the NFL and the AFL, to allow the league to grow, Charlton. They were integral in creating the Super Bowl. So when you think about Al Davis and what he did as a maverick and an innovator and a builder in the NFL, he's just as much a part of the NFL as the symbol is. Yeah,
he's just as much a part, and also gave African Americans a lot of opportunities when they were looking for chances as coaching and also players. It's all fair in Levin Ward, Big C. I wanna just say we love football, and I really appreciate everybody that's part of the NFL trying to make it a better game. But I don't think anyone can live up to what the great Al Davis did. They called him a maverick for a reason, Big C. Sometimes he just didn't care about following behind other people. In the world of ice, and I want to put out a PSA to all the teams that are playing in the National Hockey League. Take whatever ice you have left over and please send it to California so we can get rid of this drought. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's going to be some tears in Los Angeles, so you can call it rain tonight.
Yeah, the great Smokey Robinson said, tears of a clown. I don't think we'll see any tears of a clown at Staples Center tonight. And rumor has it they've taken all of those plastic blow-up dolls that they had in the seats at the beautiful Staples Center, and they've actually replaced them with plastic people, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I mean, the Staples Center, I mean, the saddest part about when you cry on paper is that it gets soft and it folds up. So, I mean, they might not be able to get all that paper out of there after the night is over.
It's all fair in love and war. We'll see what happens. But I want to go to the NHL in the East Coast, Big C, by the Atlantic Ocean. The New York Islanders had to win in order to save their season on Wednesday night. And they're still alive, Big C, in a 3-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. A lot like some of those big rats they cannot exterminate in New York, Big. They're still alive, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this was a desperation win by the Lightning. When you think about it, they were down 0-2 and scored the next 3 goals, Charlton, to take the victory. You know, they took it in overtime and got the victory out of it, Charlton, because out there in Long Island, once this season is over, the arena is gone. But, I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning did not expect to get pushed to 7 games, and it's desperation time for both teams. Yeah,
they realized not only did they fight hard in New York City, they fight as hard as those rats to keep alive. Stay alive. Staying alive, the great Bee Gees, Big C. Saturday Night Fever. Staying alive, the great Bee Gees. And those big New York Rats are staying alive. It's all fair and level war. Anthony Boulevard, Big C, scored the game-winning goal in overtime for the New York Fighting, I guess I want to call them the Fighting Islanders, Big C, in winning the goal in overtime for New York in Game 6 to knock the Stanley Big C Cup Finals or semifinal series, Big C, between the Islanders and also the Lightning. It's a really great as we're having Game 7s. We're having a lot of Game 7s in the NBA. I guess the NHL decided to join the party, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when I think about that, could be the final playoff game played in the Nassau County Coliseum. You think about all the great teams that have gone through there. The New York Nets is where they really started playing basketball in the ABA in that arena. Now they've gone to Brooklyn, Charlton, and this will be the last season there for the Islanders. And the fans, if this is the last game played, got one to remember.
Yeah, they do have one to remember. You know, hockey's doing its thing. There's a lot of great things going on, and I really want to say to our first offenders and all of our civic leaders, especially, you know, people doing their part to cut down the spread of COVID. I know whether people have been vaccinated or not, that's a personal choice, but people have taken the time to social distance and do whatever they can, washing their hands and not having large gatherings. I know Chris Paul's coming off of that pause. For anybody who thinks, oh, this stuff is over, it's just going to flow through. Well, here's a man that's missed 2 playoff games because what some people call it a hoax. It's not a hoax. It's all fair and love and war. But I do appreciate everybody doing their part to get life back to as much as normal as possible. But see, I want to go to one of your friends, though. I know sometimes when you go to a party, they say, is this the man who wrecked the buffet at the Herald Club this morning? The great Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. Major League Baseball Commissioner, the great Rob Manfred, he says, the crackdown on sticky substances, Big C, is going very well. Makes me wonder what kind of sticky substance he's cracking down on, Big C. In his view, he says the first 2 days have gone very well. We've had no ejections for foreign substances, Big C. Players in general have been extremely cooperative. They have no choice when you're giving them a strip search, Big C. And the inspections have taken place quickly and between innings. And frankly, the data suggests that we're going to make progress with respect to the issues and spin rate, Big C, that causes us to undertake the effort in the first place. I just think if they're going to make an effort to clean up the game, clean up the people that run the game too, because baseball's been around for over a century, Big C, and it's never been clean. You can't make it clean. Just try to make it safe. That's my opinion. You've got the Max Scherzer, Joe Girardi scuffle in Philly. I understand the incident that Philadelphia was less than ideal. But that was one incident he's talking about, and we expect that to be something that will continue as the vast majority of cases so far have gone on without incident. But if you're going to have men pull their pants down, have the decency, Big C. Take them into the locker room and don't do it in front of kids that are coming with their parents to watch a game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this whole idea is a joke. I mean, if you think about how some managers are going to abuse this situation. Think about it, you got a pitcher throwing a no-hitter and your batters can't hit. You can always challenge this pitcher, Charlton, and send the umpire out there on it. Get him off his game. Get him out of his rhythm. So when I look at how this rule is going to be implemented, it's not always going to be implemented after the inning, Charlton. You can go out there and challenge a pitcher during the middle of an inning, and all of a sudden the outlook of the game can change.
Yeah. you know, I mean, he spoke as if he's interviewed all the players to see if the players liked it. We know the players don't like it. I mean, just because they're men, it doesn't mean that you should be able to go and maybe unrobe somebody or force them to maybe unrobe. We would never do that in the WNBA, where they would force women to unrobe, Big C. We would never see that in a tennis match where they would force women to unrobe, Big C. We would never see that in this kind of sport where women are out there trying to do what they can to entertain the crowd, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, there's always been illegal substances used in every sport, Charlton.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the rosin bag there on the mound. It's an illegal substance if you want to really talk about that. You think about basketball, they use rosin. You think about football, had stickum for years. Every sport does something for an athlete to get an edge.
Yeah.
Baseball has been dirty since its inception.
Yeah.
We went through the quarterbacks. We went through the baseballs that have been altered. Every scenario in baseball has always come up. But now to go to this level, Charlton, where you're going to undress players on the field,
that's wrong.
I think it's an invasion, and the Players Association in the offseason is going to have to sit down and rewrite the rules.
Yeah, maybe if you undress a player, you got to undress Manfred too and make sure his backside is clean. It's all fair and level war. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Everybody's hitting home runs in Major League Baseball. They say the women love the long ball and men love hitting it deep. It's all fair and level war. Tonight's Major League Baseball schedule on a beautiful June 24th. The Royals at the Yankees, Big C. The Oakland Athletics in first place down in Texas at the Rangers. Be careful coming out of Texas in first place, Big C. The Orioles at the Blue Jays. The Astros are at the Detroit Tigers. Boston Red Sox are at the Tampa Bay Rays. The Atlanta Braves at the Cincinnati Reds. That's an all-red affair. The Nationals are at the Miami Marlins. The Cleveland Indians at the Minnesota Twins. The Pittsburgh Pirates, Big C, they're at the Cardinals over in St. Louis. Chicago Cubs, they're at the defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. But somebody forgot to tell the San Diego Padres, I think it's the first time they swept the 3-game series against the Dodgers in about two decades, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, in today's sports, yesterday don't mean a thing.
Wait a minute. Is that a song that in today's sports, yesterday don't mean a thing? Is that what you're saying, Big C? Your thoughts?
It's all about the game of the night, Charlton.
All about the game of the night. Tonight, the great Rod Stewart. You know, speaking of the game tonight, the great Larry Bird, we talked about the great Larry Bird, one of the NBA's finest, Big C, made $24 million playing basketball, but still derives pleasures from a lot of things that he's done off the hardwood, Big C. They, paraphernalia sells and doing things. He said nothing's changed on the Big C. It's been quite a while since Larry Bird last hit the hardwood floor, but it still looms in large in basketball history. During this time with the Boston Celtics, the forward proved to be both a lethal scorer and a very strong competitor, Big C. But when you think about it, despite it said over $24 million, he's still making good money, but oftentimes it's in paraphernalia sales, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, a lot of players have found a life after the sport. I mean, the sport is all about the fans.
Yeah.
Athletes don't always live vicariously through it once they walk away from the game.
Yep.
Their mindset and education gets them to other levels.
Yeah, he's built up a $75 million net worth. People can read about that if they want to. It's all fair and level war, and a lot better than a lot of players who are playing the game tonight and playing the game now, but it's all fair and level war. When you get a chance to rise and shine, you just got to rise and shine in the world of the NBA basketball. And speaking of NBA, I know there's a great game going on tonight down in Southern California, Staples Center. It's already underway, and everybody has their own opinion about who's going to win. I think the Pacific Ocean's the only thing that can cool down the Suns, and that's my opinion. It's all fair and level war. But who's the best, in your opinion? Who's the best NBA player left in the playoffs, Big C? The great Allen Iverson would say, playoffs. I'm talking about practice, man. It's all fair and level war. Who's the best player left in the NBA playoffs? King Giannis Antetokounmpo, the great Falcon of a man. His name is Ice Trae Young. The great King Devin Booker, Big C, or King Paul George. They'll be doing their thing tonight. It's all up for debate. But down south, who is your opinion outside of the bird of prey, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you look at that list of 4 players you just gave, I would have to look at Giannis, who is the best player left in the playoffs. He's a 2-time MVP. He's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. And if he remembers that when you go into the bathroom, you got to lift up the toilet seat instead of leave it down,
Yeah.
he'll take his butt down in the paint,
Yeah.
Charlton, where he's the most dominant. The Atlanta Hawks do not have anybody that can play with him in the paint. Last game, he had 34 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. He had almost a triple-double. But if he had spent more time down in the paint, Charlton, they would have walked away with a victory. And so I don't understand why guys who are 6'11", 7 feet tall, think that they're 6'1" and want to go outside and always dribble and handle the ball and launch it from three.
Yeah, it's all fair in Love and War. Final thing as we get through today's beautiful June. I mean, it's a June 24th. It's getting hot in California. It's all fair in Love and War. The Great Nell is getting hot in here, but don't take off your clothes. It's all fair in Love and War. NFL players who voluntarily opt out of the 2021 season due to COVID-19 concerns will not receive a stipend. Do you agree with that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, you opted out. You had the option to play. I mean, everybody was safe during protocol, basically. And if you choose to opt out, why should you get a stipend because you say that you don't want to be a part? They're not even obligated to keep the players on the roster. They can release them without giving them anything.
Yeah, they can. Major League Baseball, Big C. New York Yankees great Yogi Berra gets a U.S. stamp in his honor. What an honor, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Harriet Tubman should have had one long before that.
Yeah, I agree. Very well said. I agree. It's all fair in Love and War. You can't please everybody, but what you can do is just Google. I want everybody to do one thing, because Congress wants to say we don't want to talk about things about history and struggle for African Americans that we caused. I want everyone to just Google, no matter where you are, anywhere in the world. It's a science test, a scientific test, and I know some people don't believe in science. Please Google where all life came from. All life. Dr. Leakey, Gregory Mendo, Google where all life came from, and give that to the United States Congress when they decide they don't want to talk about things that are real in this country. It's all fair, love, and war. Big C, it's time to rise and shine. I'm sure the Pacific Ocean, they say the tide is a little bit higher on the West Coast, and maybe, just maybe, the Clippers will go riding high on that tide. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young men, rumble. It's all you've got to use. How can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in this boy's universe?
Well, Charlton, the tide potentially could be high on the West Coast tonight, Charlton, when you get the tears and the sweat rolling out of the Staples Center after that Clippers loss tonight, Charlton, going down 0-3 to the Phoenix Suns. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They'll have bandages to absorb some of those tears, Charlton, from the Clippers tonight.
It's all fair and level war. There will be no tears of a clown the great. Smokey Robinson is all fair and level war. You don't have to add tears, but you have to rise and shine every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And the good old boy down south, as my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence if you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage. Please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go with that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.